Tier list time! Woo! Alright, so kicking things off, we're going to start with the minis, and we're going to go from the D tier all the way up to the S tier. And honestly, I'm going to preface this with saying this is probably the most balanced meta we've actually ever had, especially since No Movement, because the first month of No Movement, we had Grand Warden, Busted Royal Ghost. Last balance change, we had Wave Master Bandit, which wasn't as oppressive as the Royal Ghost, but still very annoying and frustrating to deal with. So let's hop into it. So kicking things off, I think it's safe to say that Barbarian is still alone, not alone, but still in the D tier. He's just bad at higher levels, and that's okay. Like, this is like general consent. Like, Barbarian is probably the least useful 2 Elixir mini, but like as a starter mini, he's actually not that bad, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay that he can exist there. I don't think we need to see him super top ladder relevant meta competitive, everything like that. Like, I think it's okay that he's in the bottom tier. And then I'm gonna throw the Knight in there as well. Knight is just bad. I don't think his ability even works right now. I think his like taunt ability is like off. I think he's just pretty bad in general. And I'm gonna throw Witch in the D tier. Not that Witch is bad, but like Wizards meta, Valkyrie's meta, Mega Knight's meta, World Champions meta. So like, when you have those things, Witch is just not good in the current meta. I don't think it's that she has bad design. I think she just doesn't work right now. And I don't really know how to make her work yet, but I'd probably throw her in the D tier for this. All right, moving up to the C tier. Let's go with the Spear Goblin, the Guard. Guard might be controversial, but hear me out on it. And then Lumberjack. I'm only putting these in the C tier in the sense that like they just don't really do much. Like, Guard is pretty decent with Pink Fury and pretty decent with Grand Warden. The only thing he's good for right now in the current meta, I'm actually going to put him here. The only thing he's really good for in the current meta is to body block a Prince shot. That's about it. He's just a Prince counter at this point. So he's kind of useless as is. In my opinion, he's not like bad. Again, I just think there are better 2-cost minis in the current meta, and better counters that you need in the current meta. So I'm going to throw him there. Oh, and Bowler. Let's throw Bowler in the C tier as well. Bowler's not that great. And Battle Healer. I want to put Battle Healer in there because I think she's just kind of like still mid. She pairs really well with Shield Maiden, of course. And then some people have said they've found success with her with Pink Fury. So I'd put her in the C tier where she's not completely useless, but she's also not the most... She's just kind of there. Now, for the B tier, I'm going to throw in Prince. I think Prince is B tier. Swordsman, Valkyrie, Dart Goblin, Fisherman, Giant Skeleton, Bandit. Oh, Bandit's C tier. Bandit's definitely C tier. Royal Ghost, Musketeer, Mini Pekka, and I think that's it for what I wanted to put in the B tier. I think this is a pretty good B tier list. All these units are like pretty good. Like, Valkyrie and Prince are obviously the most used, like Valkyrie in combination with the Royal Ghost. I think Royal Ghost for once in his life is actually balanced. I don't think he's like super broken. I'm actually thoroughly impressed that he feels balanced. Like, obviously there's that one Grand Warden deck that's like really good, but it's still beatable, right? Like, it's not oppressive like we had the Grand Warden Ghost meta in June. It's not that broken where it's like everywhere, but like you can play other decks and still beat it. So to me, this feels really balanced. I really like what they've done in this patch, and there are some things that need to be tuned down a little bit and some things that need to be tuned up, but I think all in all, the balance is pretty solid. And then in the A tier, we're going to throw Pekka, we're going to throw Mega Knight, we're throwing in the Magic Archer, we're throwing in the Ice Wizard, we're throwing in the Golden Giant, and we're throwing in the Electro Wizard. And then I think we should probably also throw in the regular Wizard. Wizard, I think, needs a slight nerf, but honestly, all these units are really strong. I feel like Mega Knight is slept on. I wasn't really thinking Mega Knight would be that good, but honestly, he controls the map a lot. He's got that extended range, he's got that stun duration, and everything like that. So honestly, when you're playing against like Barb King, he's really helpful. I think there will probably be a world where Healing Ranger eventually... There will be a Healing Ranger deck that comes out that will eventually counter Mega Knight, but for now, he is pretty good. And Pekka is still just A tier. Magic Archer is still just A tier. Like all these units, especially these 4 right here, the Mega Knight, Pekka, Magic Archer, and Electro Wizard. These ones are going to synergize well with certain heroes like Ewiz with World Champion, Magic Archer with Archer Queen, Pekka with Barb King, Mega Knight with kind of a lot of things at this point. Countess, I guess, is one of them. So I think that's where that stands. And then in S tier, I'm throwing in Archer, Dagger Goblin, Healing Ranger, and Miner. This is probably controversial. Maybe Archer belongs in A tier, but I'm throwing her in S tier because she's just like such a good 2-cost. Like these 3 minis are the best 2-cost minis in the game, hands down. And I don't think there's any debate about that. Like, yes, Ice Wizard's good. Ice Wizard's a support. Wizard is good. He's more situational. Archer and Dagger Goblin and Miner are pretty much counters to a lot of things in the current meta. Fisherman can't, nothing hits the backline really. If you play it right, you can outplay people's backline with Archer. You can get backline shots going through there. So I would say these are the best minis in the game right now. These are probably the most synergetic with everything. Healing Ranger is just really strong right now. I think she's pretty much a meta counter. And it feels weird putting Healing Ranger in because she's not like everywhere. But I think she's an S tier mini because she just counters so many different things. She provides so much support for World Champion, for Archer Queen, for Pink Fury. She's the only reason that those decks can exist. So I'm putting her in the S tier for that reason. I don't think it's that I don't think any of these minis are like broken or overpowered. I think they're just slightly on the stronger side. So that's why I'm putting them in the S tier. There's probably going to be so much controversy around this, and that's perfectly fine. This is my opinion. This is based on my play experience. So I'm only putting these minis in S tier because they modify how the game is played. And then A tier, like strong support. B tier is balanced. C tier is like somewhat usable. And then D tier is just like, where are they? All right, so now the heroes. I think it's pretty safe to say that Natureborn is the worst hero in the game. I don't think there's any complaints about that. If you feel differently, let me know down in the comment section below, but I think everyone pretty much agrees. She might need a little bit of a change here, so we'll see how that goes. I think I'm going to refer to my last balance change wish list when I go through like the current balance change wish list. I think the nerf that they did to her was a lot more overbearing than we thought. My initial impression for her nerf was just reduce how long the attack buff lasts, not completely destroy it. So we'll revisit that when we get to that, but let's continue to go through the tier list. But yeah, I think she's the worst hero in the game. For C tier, I want to throw Wave Master and Skeleton King. I'm hesitant to put Skeleton King down here, but honestly, there's so many different things that he can just get kind of swallowed up by. He doesn't really tank a lot, and it's hard for him to build up souls when there's so much tanks going on in the front line. Like you have Pekka front line, you have Prince to knock it back, you have Mega Knight front line, you have Barb King in the meta. When there's so many different tanks, it's hard for Skeleton King to build up those souls. So I feel like Skeleton King in the current meta is just kind of useless because there's so many frontline tanks, and he doesn't do well versus tanky things because he thrives on taking enemies down and building up his soul so that he can last. So I feel like Skeleton King is just kind of mid right now. Wave Master got a little bit hit a little bit too hard in my opinion. There could be some changes there, but we're also going to be throwing Monk and Pink Fury and Shield Maiden in the B tier. All right, sorry, the tier list got messed up when I did that. So I'm putting Monk, Pink Fury, and Shield Maiden in the B tier. I don't think Shield Maiden's overpowered. I think Shield Maiden is actually pretty decent right now. Monk is also a decent option right now. I think there will be some Monk decks. I have a couple ideas for Monk decks that I think will work pretty well, especially with the meta kind of evolving with like Prince, Royal Ghost. There are going to be situations where you can try to predict where things will go. It's a little bit hard because like Monk pretty much relies on just getting those predictions. So I think there's a couple decks that I want to try to play around with for Monk, but I think Monk is just like kind of mid right now. I think Pink Fury is slept on. People are saying Pink Fury is the worst hero in the game. I think Natureborn, Wave Master, and Skeleton King are much worse than Pink Fury. I think Pink Fury is just such a high skill cap hero that it's hard to play. It's the first hero that introduces elixir management into the game, so finding that balance of like how to play her correctly, what works with her, what doesn't work with her, things like that. I think she's a really tricky hero to play with, but I still think she's like pretty mid-tier. I don't think she's overpowered. She's not like really strong. She's not really weak. She's just kind of there. She exists. She does well. There are matchups you can definitely win with her, and there are matchups you don't win with her. So I think she's pretty balanced right now, I would say. In the A tier, I want to throw Archer Queen, I want to throw Countess, and I want to throw Grand Warden. I think these heroes are like borderline strong, but not ridiculous. Grand Warden really only has one deck. Archer Queen really only has one deck. Countess kind of really only has one deck. And then in the S tier, obviously, we have Barbarian King and World Champion. I think Barb King and World Champion are probably going to be the best two heroes this meta. Barb King with his invincibility and also the Unstoppable is really strong at his last leg. And I think there are here's the thing that's so tricky about this too, right? Is that all 5 of these decks, like even though Barb King and World Champion are S tier, like these decks can still beat these decks. So it's really interesting, but I think like when you're talking about the heroes specifically and how they are right now, World Champions S tier, Barb King's S tier, and I don't think any of these things are like over. The only thing that really got an overbuff was the King. I think World Champions buff was warranted. I think it's deserved. I think the other heroes are just underperforming, and that it kind of excels World Champion. There's like this cycle of like when some heroes get buffed, they just like. It's not that they were terrible before. Like everybody said, like, oh, World Champion Skeleton King are the worst heroes last meta. Absolutely not. They were actually really good, and people just didn't know how to play them. I will stand by that, and you can fight me in the comment section below if you want. But no, it's one of those things where it's like that slight buff just throws them over the top because there are nerfs to other heroes, and that slight buff puts them above other heroes. Nerfs bring other heroes down. Like obviously the two heroes that got nerfed. Look at this, Wavemaster and Natureborn. Those are the two heroes that got nerfed in the last patch, and guess where they are? They're all the way at the bottom of the tier list. Skeleton King still like C to mid. He's just not relevant in the current meta because all these heroes being meta, these all revolve around having tanks in their deck. So Skeleton King can't even pressure these units because it's all tank based. The only one it has a chance to beat is Countess because Countess can TP to the backline, and that leaves the opportunity for Skeleton King to get the energy drain and stun and everything like that. So Skeleton King is really only good against Countess right here, but other than that, he's just not that good because there's so many tanks in the meta, and he relies on being able to get his souls, which involves killing minis. So I think this is my impression of the meta. This is what I think the tier list looks like after playing for about a week. And I'm also going to be having a deck highlight. I'm going to be doing some deck deep dives on a couple of these decks because there are a lot of different good decks in the game right now. Really the only ones that don't work are these 3 heroes right here. Everything else actually has a pretty solid use case in the meta. I tried Wavemaster, it's not that great. Natureborn is just terrible. Skeleton King just doesn't fit in the meta. It's not that he's bad by design right now, I think he just doesn't fit in the current meta. But let me know what you think of this tier list down in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you strongly disagree? Do you slightly disagree? But I think this pretty much describes the meta right now. And all in all, I don't think anything is insanely broken. I think the meta is pretty well balanced right now. There's a lot of different things, but because there's so little minis, it kind of feels like rock, paper, scissors-esque in certain cases. So hopefully if we are to get more minis, that will fix that problem. But let me know what you think of this tier list down in the comment section below.